Microplastic particles, undisclosed antimicrobial chemicals, and trace carcinogens have all been found hiding inside some of America's most popular kitchen sponges. That soft, colorful scrubber sitting next to your sink right now could be shedding toxins onto every plate, every fork, every glass your family eats from tonight. If you've been using the same brand for 5, 10, 20 years, everything those sponges have been leaving behind has been building up on your surfaces and on your skin that entire time. Today, we're breaking down 9 sponge brands that fail to keep you safe, including 2 that market themselves as the clean alternative, plus the 2 brands that actually passed every test. By the end, you'll know exactly which sponge to throw out tonight and what to replace it with. Coming in at number 9, O-Cedar Multi-Use Scrunge. O-Cedar calls this one the all-in-one scrubber. Safe for every surface, gentle enough for non-stick pans, tough enough for baked-on grease. One sponge to replace every cleaning tool in your kitchen. Sounds perfect. Then you look at what it's actually made of. The synthetic foam core is polyurethane. Independent material analyses have shown polyurethane sponges shed microplastic particles into wash water and directly onto dishes with repeated use. Every time you scrub a plate, invisible plastic fragments transfer to the surface your food sits on. You can't see them. You can't taste them. But they're there meal after meal, accumulating in your body with every bite. Microplastic contamination isn't some distant environmental concern anymore. Researchers have detected these particles in human blood, in lung tissue, in the digestive tract. They trigger inflammatory responses. They stress organ systems already under pressure. For anyone managing kidney health or dealing with chronic inflammation, that daily sponge session at the sink is adding a burden your body doesn't need, and the problem compounds over time. A study published in Environmental Science and Technology found microplastic particles persist in the human body for months after ingestion. They don't flush out. They accumulate in tissues. They build up silently while you keep scrubbing. Pick up the scrunge and squeeze it. Feel how the foam resists, then slowly rebounds. That synthetic bounce is the polyurethane doing exactly what polyurethane does, flexing, degrading, and shedding microscopic fragments every single time. Run it underwater and watch. The runoff looks clean. It isn't. O-Cedar built a sponge that feels like it does everything. What it actually does is contaminate every dish it touches. One sponge for every surface. One source of microplastics for every meal. If the all-in-one sponge is leaving plastic on your plates, at least the brands that promise odor resistance are keeping things cleaner. Think again. At number 8, Brillo Estracel. Brillo has been a household name since your grandparents were scrubbing pots. The Estracel sponge is their modern upgrade, marketed as long-lasting and odor-resistant. No more stinky sponges, no more throwing them out every week. Sounds like progress. But here's what Brillo doesn't tell you on the package. That odor resistance comes from antimicrobial chemicals infused directly into the sponge material. What chemicals exactly? Brillo won't say. The specific antimicrobial agents are not fully disclosed on the packaging. You're rubbing an unknown chemical cocktail across every dish your family eats from, and you have no way to find out what it is. This isn't a labeling oversight, it's a deliberate choice. A corporate decision to hide what's in the product your hands touch more than almost anything else in your home. Antimicrobial treatments in consumer products have been under scrutiny for years. The EPA has raised concerns about their contribution to resistant bacteria. The FDA banned triclosan from hand soaps in 2016 because the risks outweighed the benefits. Yet sponge manufacturers face almost no disclosure requirements. They can infuse whatever they want and call it odor protection. Pick up an Estracel sponge and smell it. That faint chemical tang underneath the packaging scent, that's not freshness. That's the antimicrobial treatment off-gassing. Now imagine that chemical dissolving into warm dishwater, coating your plates, your cups, your silverware, every meal, every day. For anyone on daily medications, especially blood pressure drugs or blood thinners, undisclosed antimicrobial residues present a real concern. These compounds can interact with medications through repeated skin contact during washing. Your hands are submerged in that water for minutes at a time. Your skin absorbs what it touches. Absorption increases with water temperature. The hotter the water, the more your pores open, the more chemicals pass through. Brillo's promise is a sponge that lasts longer. What they deliver is a chemical mystery you rub on your dishes every night. No smell, no disclosure, no accountability. If Brillo won't even tell you what's in their sponge, wait until you see what the budget brands are hiding. Number 7. Oscillo by 3M. This is 3M's bargain sponge line. You'll find it at Dollar Tree, at Walmart, stacked in the cleaning aisle where price tags matter more than ingredient lists. For anyone watching their budget, Oscillo looks like a smart buy. A few sponges for a couple of dollars? What could go wrong? The dyes. Oscillo sponges come in bright, cheerful colors that make them look clean and fresh on the shelf. But material safety data sheets reveal those synthetic dyes contain azo compounds. Some azo dyes break down into aromatic amines. The EPA has flagged certain aromatic amines as potential carcinogens. Every time you wet that sponge, the dyes begin to leach. Run an Oslo sponge under warm water for the first time and watch the color bleed. That tinted runoff isn't just pigment washing away harmlessly. It's a chemical breakdown product making contact with your hands, your dishes, your food preparation surfaces. Day after day, month after month, the exposure accumulates quietly. Squeeze the sponge and look at your fingers. That faint discoloration isn't dirt. It's dye transfer. Now imagine that transfer happening invisibly every time you wash a glass, a cutting board, a baby bottle. The color fades from the sponge over weeks. Where does it go? Onto everything the sponge touches. 3M generated over $32 billion in revenue in 2023. They could manufacture dye-free sponges tomorrow. They could use plant-based pigments. They could eliminate the chemical risk entirely and barely notice the cost difference. They don't. Because Oslo exists to hit a price point, not a safety standard. The cheapest option on the shelf. The most expensive gamble for your health. A dollar sponge. A chemical roulette. For people with dry or cracked skin, especially during winter months, those broken skin barriers become direct pathways for chemical absorption. The savings disappear fast when the cost is what's seeping through your hands. You just saw what the cheap brands are hiding. So surely the legacy names your family has trusted for decades are better. Not even close. Now at number 6, SOS Non-Scratch Scrubbers. SOS has been in American kitchens since 1917. Over 100 years of trust. Your grandmother used SOS pads. Your mother probably did too. That kind of loyalty runs deep. It also runs blind. Their non-scratch sponge line uses synthetic fibers bonded with adhesive resins. A 2021 consumer investigation flagged those resins as containing trace formaldehyde. Formaldehyde, a known irritant, a classified carcinogen, the same chemical used to preserve laboratory specimens and embalm the dead, sitting in a product you hold with bare hands every single day. The World Health Organization classifies formaldehyde as a Group 1 carcinogen, the highest designation, meaning there is sufficient evidence it causes cancer in humans. And SOS uses resins containing traces of it to hold their sponge fibers together. Not because they have to, because it's cheaper than the alternative. Hold an SOS scrubber up to your nose right out of the package. That sharp, faintly acrid chemical smell buried under the plastic wrap, that's not just new product odor. That's off-gassing from the adhesive resins that bond the scrubbing fibers to the foam base. Now run hot water over it. Heat accelerates chemical release. The formaldehyde residue becomes more active, more volatile, more likely to contact your skin and your dishes simultaneously. Every hot rinse is an activation event. For anyone managing diabetes or dealing with slow-healing skin conditions, or families where multiple people share the same sponge throughout the day, repeated hand exposure to formaldehyde creates a double threat. Chemical dermatitis breaks down skin that already struggles to repair itself, and compromised skin absorbs chemicals faster than healthy tissue. 100 years of trust. 100 years of not asking what's in the sponge. SOS counted on your loyalty. They repaid it with formaldehyde. If a century-old brand can hide carcinogens, at least the brands that market themselves as germ killers are transparent about what's inside. Wrong. And here's what most people don't realize. When you use a magic eraser on a kitchen countertop, on a stovetop, on any surface where food will later sit, melamine microparticles transfer to that surface. Invisible residue, waiting for your next meal. Run your finger across the counter after using one and feel that faint powdery film. That's not cleaning residue. That's melamine dust ground into the surface by the very abrasion that makes the product work. In 2008, melamine contamination in infant formula killed 6 children in China and hospitalized over 50,000. That was industrial contamination at high doses. But the science is clear. Melamine damages kidneys. The question isn't whether it's toxic. The question is, how much exposure is too much? And nobody is studying the cumulative effect of daily low-level melamine exposure from household cleaning products. Nobody is tracking what happens when you use a magic eraser on your countertop twice a week for 10 years. Rub a magic eraser across your countertop and look at it afterward. It's thinner, smaller. Where did that material go? Into your counter, into the air, into the surfaces your food touches. magic for your walls, poison for your kitchen. For anyone already managing reduced kidney function or taking medications that stress the kidneys, like common over-the-counter pain relievers, adding melamine microparticle ingestion to the equation compounds a risk your doctor never accounted for because your doctor doesn't know what you're cleaning with. Mr. Clean made scrubbing effortless. They also made contamination invisible. The next brand on this list is in nearly every American kitchen, and what's hiding inside will genuinely shock you. Number 3. Scotch-Brite Heavy-Duty Scrub Sponge. The green and yellow sponge. You know exactly which one I'm talking about. It's the most recognized sponge in America, found in nearly every grocery store aisle, in nearly every kitchen drawer. 3M sells millions of these every year, and every single one becomes a bacterial nightmare within days. Research published in scientific reports found that kitchen sponges harbor up to 362 different species of bacteria, not after months of use, within the first week. 362 species colonizing the dense polyurethane foam, feeding on trapped food particles, multiplying in the warm, moist environment you create every time you wash dishes. But here's the finding that should change how you think about sponges forever. Microwaving them doesn't help. Sanitizing them doesn't help. Soaking them in bleach doesn't help. The study found that attempts to clean sponges actually made things worse. The sanitization killed the weaker bacteria, but allowed the most resistant, most pathogenic strains to dominate without competition. You thought you were cleaning your sponge. You were breeding superbugs. Every trick your mother taught you about keeping sponges fresh, boiling them, microwaving them, running them through the dishwasher, the science says it backfires. You eliminate the harmless bacteria and leave the dangerous ones with unlimited resources. Cut open a week-old Scotch-Brite sponge. Look at the interior. Those dark spots aren't stains. They're bacterial colonies visible to the naked eye. Smell it. That sour, musty odor that no amount of rinsing eliminates, that's hundreds of bacterial species producing waste products inside the foam. Now remember, you used that sponge on your dinner plates last night. 362 species of bacteria, 0 effective ways to sanitize. Every plate you wash is a transfer event. For anyone with a weakened immune system, or people taking medications that suppress immune response like corticosteroids, handling a bacterially colonized sponge daily creates a direct pathway to infections that can escalate rapidly. 3M knows the science. They sell the sponge anyway. See the pattern? Budget brands hide chemicals. Legacy brands hide carcinogens. Trusted names hide bacteria. So where does that leave the viral sensations? Let's find out. This next one has a loyal fan base that swears by it. Number 2. Scrub Daddy. The smiley face sponge that became a cultural phenomenon after Shark Tank. Temperature-responsive flex texture that's firm in cold water and soft in warm water. Scratch-free on every surface. Over $200 million in sales since its TV debut. The marketing is genius. The branding is flawless. The science behind the safety claims is another story entirely. The flex texture polymer material has not been independently certified as food safe for prolonged contact. Not tested, not certified, not verified by any third-party lab for the one thing that matters most, whether it's safe to touch your dishes with. 200 million in sales and not a single independent food contact safety certification. Let that sink in. And then there's the design. That iconic smiley face isn't just cute. Those open eyes and that open mouth create recessed areas that trap food debris. Run the sponge underwater after washing dishes and look inside those cavities. Food particles lodge in the curves and resist rinsing. They become bacterial breeding grounds hidden behind a grin. Squeeze a Scrub Daddy after 3 days of use. Push your thumbnail into the smile. See what comes out. That trapped residue is decomposing organic matter, and the bacteria feeding on it transfer to every surface you scrub next. Your cutting board, your baby's bottle, your morning coffee mug. Cross-contamination with a smiley face. For anyone managing blood sugar levels or families with young children whose immune systems are still developing, those hidden bacterial colonies represent a real infection risk that no amount of rinsing can eliminate. The bacteria don't wash out because the design won't let them. Scrub Daddy built a brand on personality. They skipped the part where they prove it's safe. A smiley face on the outside, a bacterial colony on the inside. That was bad. But the number 1 spot goes to the so-called upgrade that makes everything worse. Number 1. Scrub Mommy. Marketed as the premium evolution of Scrub Daddy. Everything you love, plus a soft rhizofoam side that absorbs better and stays odor-free longer. Dual texture, dual purpose, the ultimate kitchen sponge. Except the upgrade is a downgrade in every way that matters. Rhizofoam is a proprietary polymer blend. Proprietary means they won't tell you what's in it. Independent testing by material scientists has shown that rhizofoam has no publicly available food contact safety certification. You don't know what this foam is made of. The manufacturer won't say. And no independent lab has certified it safe to touch the surfaces you eat from. But the real danger is what happens between the layers. That dual texture design, the scrubber on one side and the foam on the other, creates a seam where moisture gets trapped. Water pools between the two materials with no way to dry. Independent testing found that mold growth begins in this invisible interior within just 3 days of regular use. 3 days. That's not months of neglect. That's a brand new sponge used normally for 72 hours. Now here's the part that stops you cold. Every time you squeeze a scrub mommy, you compress that mold-colonized interior. The pressure forces air and moisture outward. Airborne mold spores release directly into the space around your face, your sink, your kitchen, your lungs. For people managing chronic respiratory conditions like COPD or asthma, or families with children who have allergies, squeezing a mold-colonized sponge near the face during dishwashing releases spores that can trigger bronchospasm episodes. Over 15 million Americans over 50 live with COPD or asthma. Millions more have allergic sensitivities, and they're squeezing mold spores into their breathing space twice a day. The premium sponge, the upgrade you didn't need, zero safety certification, mold in 3 days, airborne spores in every squeeze. Scrub Mommy charges more and delivers worse. Drop a comment if Scrub Daddy or Scrub Mommy is sitting next to your sink right now. Let's see how many of us bought into the hype. 9 brands exposed. But don't give up on sponges entirely. 2 brands prove it's still possible to scrub clean without scrubbing poison onto your plates. Go check your sink right now. If you see any of those 9 brands, throw them out tonight. Safe pick 1. Twist Naked Sponge. Finally, a sponge with nothing to hide. Twist makes their sponges from 100% natural cellulose and plant-based fibers. 0 dyes. 0 antimicrobial treatments. 0 synthetic foams. Every single material is fully disclosed on the label. No mystery chemicals, no proprietary blends, no fine print you need a chemistry degree to decode. The sponge is certified by the USDA Bio-Preferred program and is commercially compostable. That means no chemical residues accumulate on your surfaces or hands over time. What touches your dishes is cellulose and plant fiber. Period. Nothing else. Open the package and feel it. The texture is firm but natural. No synthetic bounce. No chemical springiness. Wet it and squeeze. No dye bleeds into the water. No chemical smell rises from the foam. Just a clean sponge doing what a sponge should do. Scrubbing dishes without leaving anything behind except clean. The naked sponge breaks down naturally when you're done with it. It doesn't sit in a landfill leaching azo compounds into groundwater for decades. It doesn't shed microplastics into the ocean. It cleans your dishes and then it disappears, the way every sponge should. For anyone on multiple daily medications or families with young children eating off every surface you wash, a completely chemical-free sponge eliminates the risk of unknown topical exposures interacting with your prescriptions or your child's developing system. No guesswork, no gamble, just plant fiber and peace of mind. Twist proved that a sponge doesn't need synthetic chemicals, proprietary polymers, or undisclosed antimicrobials to work. It just needs to be honest about what it's made of. Clean materials, clean dishes, clean conscience. Safe pick 2, Skura Style. This sponge solved the one problem every other brand ignores, knowing when to throw it out. Skura Style uses a unique indicator. Fade technology, a printed design on the sponge that visually fades with use, telling you exactly when to replace it. No guessing, no sniff tests, no using a bacteria-saturated sponge for weeks, past its safe lifespan because it still looks fine on the outside. That simple visual cue changes everything. The research is clear. Pathogenic bacteria colonize conventional sponges within 7 days. Most people use their sponges for weeks, sometimes months. Every day past that first week, you're scrubbing dishes with a bacterial colony, and you don't even know it. Skura Style's fade indicator takes the guesswork out of the equation entirely. When the design fades, you replace it. Simple, effective, potentially life-saving. The sponge material itself is third-party tested and certified free from triclosan, formaldehyde, and antimicrobial chemical treatments. The results are published on their website, not hidden behind proprietary claims, not buried in corporate jargon. Published, transparent, verifiable. Anyone can check. Hold a fresh Skura-style sponge next to a week-old conventional sponge. One has a clear, visible indicator telling you its status. The other is a guessing game wrapped in bacterial film. For anyone managing a chronic health condition or families who want one fewer invisible risk in their kitchen, the built-in replacement reminder alone dramatically reduces exposure to the dangerous bacteria that no amount of microwaving or sanitizing can eliminate. Skura Style didn't reinvent the sponge. They just added the one feature every sponge should have had from the beginning: honesty about when it's time to let go. 9 brands exposed. Your kitchen deserves better than invisible contamination. Subscribe now, and if you're watching on TV, tap your remote so you never get blindsided again.